The sound of crystal shattering against marble cut through the ballroom like a gunshot. Conversations froze mid-sentence. Heads turned. And in the center of it all, beneath chandeliers dripping in gold light, a single father stood with fire in his eyes while three powerful men staggered backward in disbelief. The CEO's hand trembled so badly that red wine sloshed over the rim of her glass and stained her dress like spilled blood. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the strength of a parent's love, take a second to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with someone who needs inspiration today, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us what truly matters. Daniel Hayes had never planned to attend a charity gala filled with billionaires and politicians. He was more comfortable in steel-toe boots than polished leather shoes, more familiar with construction sites than crystal chandeliers. But that night wasn't about him. It was about his 8-year-old daughter, Lily. Lily had spent the last year battling a rare heart condition. Hospital corridors had replaced playgrounds. Machines had replaced bedtime stories. Daniel had sold his truck, drained his savings, and worked double shifts just to keep up with medical bills. When he heard that the city's most influential CEO, Victoria Laurent, was hosting a charity event supporting children with cardiac illnesses, he swallowed his pride and used the last of his money to buy a single ticket. Not for sympathy. For hope. He left Lily with a trusted neighbor and walked into a world that looked nothing like his own. The ballroom glowed with wealth. Women in silk gowns laughed behind diamond necklaces. Men in tailored suits discussed investments as casually as the weather. Daniel felt the weight of their stares almost immediately. His shirt, though clean and neatly pressed, wasn't designer. His hands were rough, scarred from years of labor. A faint red thread bracelet Lily had tied around his wrist stood out against his calloused skin. Victoria Laurent stood near the center of the room in a striking red gown, poised and commanding. She was known as the youngest CEO in the country to build a healthcare empire from nothing. To most people, she was untouchable. To Daniel, she was the woman who could fund research that might save his child. When their eyes briefly met, she didn't see a laborer. She saw exhaustion. She saw desperation carefully hidden behind quiet dignity. She nodded politely, and for a moment Daniel felt invisible walls shift. But not everyone welcomed his presence. Three men, investors whose smiles never reached their eyes, began whispering loudly enough for others to hear. They mocked his clothes, questioned how he got in, suggested security had made a mistake. The humiliation burned, but Daniel stayed silent. He had endured worse. He had endured watching his daughter struggle to breathe. Then one of the men stepped closer to Victoria, lowering his voice but not enough. He suggested that people like Daniel were exploiting sympathy. That charity should be reserved for real contributors. Another man reached toward Daniel's shoulder, pushing him back slightly as if he were an inconvenience. And that was when Lily's red bracelet tightened around Daniel's wrist as if reminding him why he was there. The third man laughed and made a cruel comment about children being lost causes if their parents couldn't afford proper care. Something inside Daniel snapped. It wasn't rage born from ego. It was instinct. The kind that activates when a father senses a threat to his child, even if she isn't in the room. His body moved before anyone processed what was happening. In one fluid motion, he deflected the first man's grip, pivoted, and used the second man's forward momentum to send him stumbling into a table. Glassware crashed. Gasps filled the air. The third lunged clumsily, only to be disarmed and pinned against a column within seconds. The entire exchange lasted less than 10 heartbeats. Daniel didn't throw wild punches. He didn't scream. He simply neutralized them with controlled precision, years of disciplined training hidden beneath his humble exterior. Few knew that before construction, before fatherhood, before hospital bills, Daniel had served in special operations overseas. He had learned restraint the hard way. He knew exactly how much force was necessary, and no more. "Leave her alone," he said quietly, his voice steady but carrying across the silent room. Victoria's hand trembled. Not from fear of Daniel, but from the realization that everything she thought she understood about strength had just shifted. She had spent years fighting corporate battles, navigating boardrooms filled with men who underestimated her. She had built armor out of ambition. But she had never witnessed such raw, protective love. Security rushed in, but Victoria raised her hand. The trembling had stopped. She stepped forward, studying Daniel closely. She saw the faint exhaustion under his eyes, the wear in his shoes, the thread bracelet. She asked him why he came. And for the first time that night, Daniel spoke about Lily. He didn't beg. He didn't dramatize. He simply described hospital nights, whispered promises, and the way his daughter still smiled even when machines beeped around her. He spoke about wanting a future where children weren't statistics tied to income brackets. His voice cracked only once, when he mentioned how Lily believed her father could fix anything. The ballroom that once buzzed with arrogance now felt heavy with shame. Victoria felt something inside her break open. She had lost her own father at a young age. He had worked endlessly, sacrificing his health to provide for her. Watching Daniel stand there, bruised knuckles and unwavering pride, felt like watching a memory come alive. Right there, under chandeliers that once symbolized power, Victoria made a decision that would ripple far beyond that night. She announced a new foundation branch dedicated specifically to children from low-income families with critical heart conditions. Not as a publicity move. Not for applause. But because she finally understood what the numbers on spreadsheets truly represented. And she invited Daniel to help her design it. The investors who mocked him left quietly. Their tailored suits could not hide their smallness. Weeks later, Lily received approval for a groundbreaking procedure funded by the newly launched initiative. Daniel sat beside her hospital bed, holding her tiny hand wrapped in wires, whispering stories about brave queens and unstoppable warriors. When the surgery succeeded, the doctors called it remarkable. Daniel called it hope. Victoria visited Lily during recovery. The powerful CEO who once commanded boardrooms now sat cross-legged on a hospital floor coloring beside a little girl with a stitched scar and a fearless smile. Her hand didn't tremble anymore. It built. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps stories of strength and compassion reach more people who need them. And before we end, I have a special request. Comment the word protector below if you believe a parent's love is the strongest force on earth. Because sometimes heroes don't wear suits worth thousands of dollars. Sometimes they wear worn boots, carry invisible scars, and walk into rooms where they don't belong, just to fight for someone who believes they can do anything. That night, under golden chandeliers, a single father didn't just take down 3 men in seconds. He reminded an entire room what real power looks like.